My earliest memory of Lesourdesville was back in the 60s. I had an uncle who worked for Reynolds and Reynolds. And the company would send their employees to Lesourdesville for a day. The whole family. You could bring as many people as you wanted as long as they were related. And they had this huge picnic area, and you could come bring your family and eat. They provided all the food. This was back in the day when the companies really took care of people. And they would have fried chicken and hot dogs and things like that. And then you could just spend the whole day at the park and swim. Lesourdesville had this great water park before they used the word water park. And you could swim and lay out and then just go around the park and get on all the rides and stuff. You could also go next door to Fantasy Farm, which was for kids who'd never really seen an animal before. You could go pet the goats, and you could ride this little train around the park and go in a barn and just do sort of country things. They really made a killing off of just showing off average animals. Had a petting zoo. It was just an extended petting zoo with lots of little kiddie rides. But Fantasy Farm, next door to Lesourdesville, didn't have the big rides like the Ferris wheel and the roller coasters and scramblers and things like that. So this was way back before Kings Island. So it was like the thing to do if you could never make it to Disney, which most people in this part of the country couldn't. I do remember, though, like after Kings Island had come on the scene and people were kind of ditching Lesourdesville, it turned into Americana. I'm not sure who it was bought out by. But then the quality of the rides and the safety of the rides kind of suffered. And it was kind of a sort of a running joke, you know, don't get on the wooden roller coaster at Lesourdesville, you may lose your life kind of thing. But we didn't care. It was fun. You know, when you're little, it doesn't matter. But I loved even the toys and stuff they had at the games, like the big inflatable swords and the colored canes that are made out of wood. We used to hit each other with those. That was the fun part. Driving home was hitting each other with our canes and inflatable swords and squeaky inflatables. When I was in high school, I went to a private high school in Middletown, which was a faith-based school. It was a Christian school. They did not believe in dancing, therefore we did not have prom. So we had a banquet, and then we had our after banquet, which was to spend the entire night riding rides and things at Lesourdesville. I think by this time it was called Americana. But that, again, was for people who could not afford the big Kings Island ticket. So we had our after prom at Americana, and that was pretty fun because I had 2 dates to that prom, so I spent one part of the evening on one side of the park with one date and then kind of faked an illness and headed to the other side of the park and spent the rest of the party with my other date, which is so terrible but so fun. My last real memory of that park after it became Americana was back in the 80s. I think it was the late 80s. I can't remember the exact date, but probably 87 or 88. At the time, I was married to a musician, and they were playing a biker sort of party down there. I think some bikers were going down there for a picnic and a day in the park. And the band played during the band shell, and it rained all day, which kind of closed out my memory of that park. Kind of a dreary, cold, rainy day, which was pretty fitting because that's the way it ended. It was very sad, and I miss it a lot. But I drive by there on Route 4, the back way to Cincinnati to go to Jungle Gyms, and and I wave as I go by. There's no trace of Fantasy Farm anymore, but now the Americana, I believe it's the Americana RV park is there. So if you need an RV, that's where you go buy it. No more roller coasters. We trade our roller coasters in for RVs. So that's all I remember. Shelly Hulce, Dayton, Ohio.